Hello and welcome to the Newsome MMA betting podcast. Before we move on to the breakdowns, I just want to talk a little about the rebrand from Victory in Vegas to the Newsome MMA betting podcast. Unfortunately, Nambreka won't be joining me here for the foreseeable future due to other commitments right now. I genuinely hope this hiatus doesn't last forever and he can join me at some point again in the future. It'd be really cool to have him back on. But moving forward, I think it makes sense to rename the channel to Newsome MMA in order just to reflect everything else going on with what I do, really. And with that said, we move on to break down the first event of 2018, which is UFC Fight Night 124 in St Louis. So, it's like I say, it's the first card of the year. Really excited, really looking forward to breaking this down. And a little spoiler, it's just a bit of a strange one, really. The majority of the bets that I've got on the card are underdogs. So I think there's a lot of value, and I also think there's a lot of offlines as well. I think there's some underdogs that shouldn't be underdogs, and I think there's some really, really wide favourites that should be a lot closer. But, you know, that's just the way it is. There's a few leans that I had on the card that I couldn't bet due to the prices the odds just being so high. So the way this works, as always, I'm not going to change the structure with the way this continues. I've picked out my bets for the card, and I'll break those bets down in full for you and tell you every reason why I think those bets will cash. Everything else that I haven't bet on the card that I've passed for whatever reason, whether it be offlines or, you know, just the fact that I've just not done tape on them just because I didn't see any sort of edge. Even if I did watch the tape, I'll just quick fire off at the end a little why I think they're going to win and maybe what round, etc. So just jumping straight into the full breakdowns, we've got the main event of the evening, which is Jeremy Stephens against Choi. And yeah, this is the first underdog bet of the card. I've got 2 units on Jeremy Stephens at a very, very ridiculous line at plus 188 it was. So I got that initially when it first came out at Paddy Power, I believe. And yeah, the lines were just ridiculous. I thought it would be a lot closer. I mean, it is now. It has reined back in. I think the best you can get Jeremy Stephens now is about plus 150, but still I see a lot of value in that as well. It's weird, this one, because when the fight got announced, pre-tape obviously, I really favoured Choi. I just thought that, you know, his movement would, he's the quicker fighter, younger. And then when the odds came out, I saw it was really wide. Like I say, I got Jeremy Stephens at plus 188 in the UK, and I think Choi was minus 250, so it was really wide, and I thought, okay, well, this line's going to change. Whether I still lean Choi after tape and I bet him, I thought that was going to rein in, or if I did flip my decision for Jeremy Stephens, I thought, well, that's going to get worse as well. So I ended up doing some emergency tape on the morning that I woke up and saw that the odds were released, and yeah, completely flipped, not only to the point of having a lean on Jeremy Stephens, but completely flipped into the point where, you know, I had to bet him. And I just think it's actually a bad stylistic matchup for Choi here. He's going to go one or two ways. Choi's normally an aggressive fighter. He's got power. He comes forward. He puts guys away. He's got a lot of knockouts on his record. Most of them first round as well, including one which was, I think it was like a few seconds maybe. Definitely into the first round. I know he only threw 4 punches. It was against Thiago Tavares. No, it wasn't a few seconds. It was a little bit longer. But yeah, he only threw like 4 punches in the fight and knocked him out with one of them. So yeah, he's an aggressive fighter and he comes forward. But I think if he takes that approach with Jeremy Stephens is going to really, really enjoy that. You know, he loves scrapping inside the pocket. He's got power. He's quick. He's a good technical striker inside the pocket. So I think if Choi stays there with him, I think Choi can have some success there, absolutely. But I just think that type of that type of fight does favour Stevens. They're the types of fights that he normally gets the better of Choi. And to be honest with you, in Choi's last fight with Cub Swanson, I think that shows that Choi might not be sort of the pocket fighter that we think he is, and definitely not as good as what Jeremy Stevens will be inside that pocket, because Cub was landing a lot of shots on Choi. He was making Choi look really hittable. And Cub doesn't have the power that Jeremy Stevens has. I think that if Choi gets hit half as much, 50% as much as what he did in the Swanson fight against Stevens, he's going to sleep, because I don't think he's going to be that durable. Well, as durable anyway, because that was, it was a fight of the year. It was a great fight, but he took a lot of damage. And I'm not saying that, it was life changing. It potentially could have been. I'm not going down that road. I'm not going to say it was, but in regards to durability, I think, like I say, I think if he gets hit with the same shots from Jeremy Stevens, I think he's going for a nap. But then you look at the other side of this, and if Choi fights backwards, he's not that type of fighter. He fights aggressive, he fights going forward and on the back foot. I think if Stevens is made to move forward, he will come forward happily. And I think if that happens, we'll see a more technical Jeremy Stevens, a little bit like what we did against Gilbert Melendez, when Stevens was chopping down his legs, starting combinations with leg kicks, finishing combinations with leg kicks. Seems to be a pattern that when fighters do that, mixing it up, they do tend to have a lot of success in MMA. And it wasn't until Melendez's legs were actually that badly battered that Stevens did take his foot off a little bit, and Melendez was coming forward because he knew that he had to finish Stevens to win that fight and didn't want to take any more damage. So yeah, I'm not. I'll be honest, I'm not sure which way Choi is going to fight this, whether he does come forward or whether he does fight backwards. But I just think stylistically, it's a bad fight. I think bad fight for Choi. I think he might have the speed advantage over Stevens, and I think he can have success in the earlier rounds, but ultimately it's down to how hittable Choi makes himself in this fight. And if I'm guessing, I think Choi does come forward. I think he does try and press Stevens, and Stevens will relish that. He saw with the Stevens and Moicano fight that I actually lost money on. It was really stressful to watch, but Stevens got frustrated, and the reason he got frustrated is because Moicano was just not just on the back foot, but really just trying to get out of the way of everything. And then when Stevens did get close, he managed to get a couple of takedowns on Stevens, and the whole thing was just really frustrating. But he's not going to get that in a fight with Duo Choi. Duo Choi's not. He might be on the back foot, but he's not going to run away, so to speak, like Moicano did. So yeah, I think that Stevens is going to win. I think it could go to a decision. I don't see a flash KO early on in the fight. I'm also not leaning so much a decision. I think Stevens will break him down, whether it be the leg kicks or whether him just blasting Choi inside the pocket and landing the harder shots. Because that's the other thing as well. I think Choi might land more shots, but Stevens will definitely land the harder shots. And over 3 rounds, I would say that there's an argument that Choi could take a decision here, but over a 5-round fight, 25 minutes, when Stevens is landing the harder shots, I think eventually you're gonna get knocked out, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think it'll be fourth round knockout. I'll go 4th round knockout. I think he wears him out over 3 rounds and gets the TKO in the 4th round. So yeah, 2 units on Jeremy Stevens at plus 188, and bring it on to the next bet. It's still in the same fight. So the next bet, I've actually got another 2 units on over 1.5 rounds, which is where the over under was set for this fight. And to be honest with you, I think it's a bit crazy. I would probably, if I'm honest, I probably would have expected it to be set at over 2.5. Sorry, at 2.5, and the over still be quite a high minus figure. But I got the over 1.5 rounds at minus 133, and that was, I think, pretty much a week after the line was released. And some people bet it before that, well, within inside of that first week, and they got minus 118. I've seen on BetMMA.tips. So there was some crazy lines in regards to the over, and I'm just looking at what it is now, and the over 1.5 I'm looking at now. In England, England you can get minus 189. In America, it's shooting down to like minus 235. So to get minus 133 really is a great line. And I post all my bets live as soon as I bet them on Twitter. My handle's at Newsome_MMA. So do follow me if you want to get hold of these good lines. I do tend to hit lines as early as possible. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, but most of the time I'm hitting the line at the right time. So make sure you follow me if you wanna get these good lines. But yeah, the over 1.5, as I've just said in the breakdown for my Jeremy Stephens straight bet, I don't think there's an early knockout, and there's a few different aspects of this. I see either Choi coming forward and being durable, and like I said, and lasting a few rounds. Like I said, I've predicted he lasts 3 rounds and gets knocked out in the 4th. In that scenario, if Choi's a little on the defensive side and he is moving backwards, I think that will, like I said, I think we'll see a Jeremy Stephens that's quite technical, that will just be hitting him with effective shots to break him down rather than knock him out. So yeah, I mean, then the other side of it as well is if Choi is inside the pocket with Jeremy Stephens, he's got a lot of knockout power, he's got a lot of knockouts on his record, but Jeremy Stephens has only been put away once in 40 fights, knocked out once in 40 fights. He's been submitted 3 times, but I don't think we have to worry about that here. I don't think this fight's gonna go to the ground. If it does, I'm not worried about anyone submitting anybody, to be honest. I don't know. I think it'll be quite stale on the ground, but yeah. So Jeremy Stephens been knocked out once in 45s, and that was also a long time ago. We're talking nearly 6 years ago. So yeah, I don't think Stephens is going to get knocked out. I think Stephens will knock Choi out, but Choi's durable enough to take that over a few rounds. I think I'd be surprised anyway if there's a knockout in the first, or a finish within the first 7.5 minutes of this fight. I'll be very surprised. So the over 1.5, it's a good bet. Weirdly, even though the line is at like north of minus 200 now, there's still value in that. I'm not gonna lie. There's gonna be value in that all the way up to about maybe minus 250 if I'm being kind. So if you do want to hit the line, if you do want to tail the bet, then like I said, there is still value in. Like I say, I'm looking at bestfightodds.com now, and William Hill, which is part of the UK, is in there at minus 189, which, like I said, there's still value in that as well. So yeah, the over 1.5 rounds for Jeremy Stephens and Choi is at minus 133, and I have 2 units on that. So moving on to my next bet, we've got Paige VanZant against Jessica Rose Clark, and surprise, surprise, another underdog. So I've got 1.5 units on Paige VanZant at plus 129. I got that at William Hill with their bet boost. I've spoken about this on the previous episodes on the podcast. If you are from the UK, do check out William Hill before you actually put a bet on from any other bookie, just because William Hill are competitive with the other lines from other bookies, but then, like I say, you've got the bet boost as well, which normally adds plus 9 to each bet. So, and how it works, I did dig a little deeper into it so I could understand. You get 1 bet boost per customer per day. So every day you'll get the chance for 1 bet boost, and yeah, it's worth doing. I think Paige VanZant was at plus 120, bet boosted up to plus 129. A lot of value on that. That line's crept all the way back down. You could still get plus 110. A lot of places are now at evens money or even worse. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not high on VanZant. I'm not going to pretend I am. She did have a hype train, a year or so ago. People were thinking, she was the next big thing. UFC were advertising her as their poster girl, so everything was clicking for her. But really, the performances just didn't live up to the hype, and that train is well and truly derailed, in my opinion. But having said that, I'm here to bet MMA, to bet UFC, and to cash bets. So I think Paige VanZant wins this fight. Now, with Jessica Rose Clark, she came in at short notice against Bet Rawlins, which is, by the way, a common opponent for both fighters. They've both fought Bet Rawlins recently within the last few fights. And Jessica Rose Clark, she came in on short notice in the Sydney card, I believe it was, against Bet Rawlins, who was supposed to have fought Jojo Calderwood. And she beat her. It was a split decision that I think was wrong. As in, I don't think it was a split decision. I think it was unanimous, 29-28 at worst. I wouldn't have argued for any 30-27s, but she won the fight and the right person won. But I feel that Bet Rawlins fought two different, and a lot of people are thinking that because Jessica Rose Clark beat Bet Rawlins, pretty convincingly, and Paige was losing against Bet Rawlins before knocking her out, people are thinking, okay, well, because of that, we see Rose Clark beating Paige VanZant. But for a start, MMA math very rarely works out, and after watching tape, it became clear to me that was the case here as well. Now, I think Rawlins, like I said before, Rawlins, I think, fought a different fight against both of these women. Now, a slightly different fight. With Paige VanZant, Bet Rawlins was coming forward as she normally does, but she had decent movement. She was going inside at the right times, throwing at the right times, and really just doing an all-around really great job. But against Rose Clark, it was a little different. She was still going forward like she normally does. I mean, she's an aggressive fighter, and that's how she fights. But she was just walking Rose Clark down, but straight forward in a straight line, a chin out, just looking to land shots herself, not having any sort of head movement or movement in general. And like I say, just being really, really overly aggressive and just looking for a knockout shot. But because she was fighting that way, Jessica Rose Clark was able to land shots at will. She was landing great counters. She was landing knees to the body, which eventually really did start to hurt Beck, and you could see she started to take over that fight as well. When she realised that Beck was really starting to get affected by the body shots. But I think because Rawlins was doing that, it made Clark look a lot better than what she is. And I personally don't think she's a great fighter. I don't think Paige VanZant's a great fighter either, but I think Paige VanZant is clearly a better fighter. And like I say, I don't want to say that as in like I'm really high on VanZant, because like I say, I'm not, but I just think in this fight, Paige VanZant is the better fighter. I think that Rose Clark had a lot of success with Rawlins because of the counters, because she had an easy static target to hit, whereas Paige VanZant isn't gonna give her that target. Paige VanZant does move. She does move back. She has got good movement. She does circle left to right. She does move in and out at decent times. Use her kickboxing. Can work in the clinch as well. I know that she's just moved back home with all her family, Portland, Oregon, with Chael Sonnen and co. Gracie Barra. So she's obviously been working on her jiu-jitsu. With Chael, he'll have the wrestling game as well. So I'm wondering if we're going to see any of that in this game plan. I'd love to see Paige VanZant come out and be able to take Rose Clark down, but I think I think Clark is going to be the bigger fighter. I'm not sure Paige will get her down or maybe even try, but it would be nice if that happened from my perspective from betting Paige. But yeah, I think Paige is going to manage distance really well. She's going to be the one dictating the pace of the fight. She's going to pick her shots. I don't see a finish at all. So I think Paige is going to win a decision. It might not be the most clear decision. I think I think it'll be 29-28. I think Clark will take a round. I don't think it'll be a split. If I thought it'd be a split, I wouldn't bet, because I've said that a few times to a few people already on a fight that I'm going to quick fire a little bit later on. I don't tend to bet fights that I think are going to end up in split decisions, because it could easily go one way rather than the other, and it's too risky. But yeah, I just think VanZant will frustrate Clark. Clark will come forward. I don't think she fights as good coming forward as she does on her back foot, and that'll allow Paige to take over the fight and just pick at her over 3 rounds. So I think she'll win a 29-28 decision. And just to reiterate, that's 1.5 units at plus 129. So moving on to my final bet of the card, and again, a fight that I maybe wasn't going to bet until I really did look a lot more into it. And again, another underdog. I've got 1.5 units on Darren Elkins at plus 150 to beat Michael Johnson. Now, initially, again, thinking, okay, Michael Johnson's a really, he's a good fighter. He's got speed, he's got power, which tends to be the Achilles heel of Darren Elkins. With Elkins being a grinder and a wrestler, he does tend to get outworked by good strikers. But there's a lot of red flags here for Michael Johnson. The reason being is he's dropping down to featherweight for the first time, and if I'm honest, I thought he was a decent sized lightweight. So it was actually quite a surprise to me when I heard he was dropping down to featherweight, because, like I said, I thought he was a decent sized lightweight, and his frame as well. He's quite a big ripped dude. So dropping down a weight, I was really, really surprised about that in regards to how much weight he's going to have to cut, and is he going to be able to make the cut. But this is also the reason why I bet it now, and I'll move on to that shortly. But yeah, so there was that side of it, and also Michael Johnson hasn't got the best cardio. He has been known to gas later on in fights. He did against Gaethje. He tried to put Gaethje away, couldn't put him out, gassed hard. Also, Nate Diaz started to take over when he beat him as well. I won't even talk about the Khabib fight, because Khabib just Khabib'd him. So yeah, he has got tendencies to gas and dropping down a weight. And like I said, with me thinking that he's going to have a bad weight cut, which I think he is, that's going to have an effect on his cardio as well. So if he's already got not so great cardio, this weight cut is, in my opinion, is going to make it worse. And as I mentioned, with moving on with Darren Elkins, he's a grinder. He sticks himself to his opponents. He closes distance really well. He doesn't try to let them get any space against him, suffocates them. If he can't take you down, he'll be happy just to work you in the clinch against the cage, doing enough for referees not to pull you off, but also scoring points, wearing the clock down as well. And that type of fighter, in general, is the type of fighter that will make people expend more energy than what they'd like. Now, you add the 2 and 2 together here, and you've got the issues that I've just mentioned with Michael Johnson against the way Darren Elkins fights. Suddenly, this is a bad stylistic matchup for Michael Johnson, because I think he's going to gas. Now, the one thing to mention is when Michael Johnson does come into fight day and he does step inside the octagon, he is going to be a bigger dude. He'll have put water weight on by that point, refueled, and he'll be a bigger guy. But because of that, I think that, and I'm anticipating Elkins to probably lose round 1 marginally. I don't think he'll get absolutely smoked, but because that's Michael Johnson's path to victory. Michael Johnson's path to victory for me, his best path It wouldn't be the smartest thing to do, but I think it would be what he has to do is go out in round one and try and take Elkins' head clean off, because if he doesn't, he's going to have trouble. So he has to do that. So I'm anticipating round one to be Michael Johnson's round, but then at some point in round two, Johnson's going to gas, because Elkins just, you know what you're going to get with Elkins. You know you're going to get that wrestling. You know you're going to get that grinding style. And he doesn't change from fight to fight. Like some fighters you'll watch and you'll bet on them because they've got great wrestling. And I'll give an example. I bet Tony Martin to be Hollywood. I can't remember his name. But I bet Tony Martin to win a fight because of his wrestling and his takedowns. And he stood with the dude and boxed him up for 3 rounds. And luckily, he got the upper hand of the fight. But with Elkins, you don't get that. He doesn't change from fight to fight. He fights the same every single fight. And at some point in round two, I think that Johnson's going to gas. And from there, it doesn't matter if he's a bigger, stronger guy. Once he's gassed, I'm not saying he's going to mentally give up, even though there has been, I have heard people question him mentally quitting in fight midway through fights. But I think he's going to gas. He's going to get taken down. When he gets taken down, I don't think he's going to offer too much off his back. And I think Elkins is just going to grind him, and then whatever Elkins does in that round two, after he gets Johnson tired, he'll replicate and then some in round three, and I think he'll take the decision. I think it'll be, again, like I've said previously with the Paige fight, I don't think it'll be a split decision like the Bermudez fight. I think it'll be a clear 29-28 with Elkins losing round number one. So yeah, again, I see really good value in Elkins. I've got him at plus 150. You can still get him at plus 150 in the UK. If you're in the US, you are looking at best price. I know that best price at William Hill. If you're looking at best price about plus 133. So it has gone down a bit, but the other thing you've got to factor if you're thinking about betting this line is I've seen a few people say, I want to see how Michael Johnson looks on the scales. Does he look really bad because of all this weight he's lost? Does he look like he's really struggled? But I can guarantee you right now, if you wait till weigh-ins to bet on Darren Elkins, because Michael Johnson looks really bad, he's going to get absolutely steamed. The Elkins line's going to get absolutely steamed. Once people look at Michael Johnson, if he does look bad, he's going to get steamed. So my advice would be, make your decision now, because there's value in the line right now. But if Johnson looks bad on the scales, I would say within half an hour of him weighing in or missing weight, we don't know if he's going to make weight. Half an hour after Johnson steps on that scales, if he looks bad, there is going to be no value in Darren Elkins, and at that point, I probably won't bet him, because even though he's plus 130 now, let's say, just round it off, I think he could end up going down. He could end up going down to minus money and being the favourite in that fight if Johnson looks bad. People are anticipating it that badly. So my advice would be, if you want to pass, great, pass. If you don't want to pass, I would make your mind up now and take Elkins while there's still value. So that wraps it up for the full breakdowns. So 4 bets over 3 fights, and now I'll move into the quickfire round. So first fight of the quickfire round was an initial lean, Uriah Hall versus Vitor Belfort. I did lean Hall. I capped it at plus 175, I think it was, where I wanted to bet him for value. I probably would have gone to minus 200. But he's like minus 250, I think, is the best price I can get him now, and I think it's even worse over in America. So the only reason why I can't bet him at those odds, like, I'm not scared of betting fighters at those ridiculous odds, but he's got a bad chin as well, Hall. So yeah, Belfort's done, all this post USADA, he's not the same fighter. It's true, he's old, he's had his time, he's took a lot of damage, his chin is starting to look shot now. But the two things Vitor Belfort does still have in this fight, or in his game, is aggression and power. And he does only have them for a limited amount of time, granted. But if he has that for a round, and he gives Uriah, and he catches Uriah Hall at some point in that first round, he will knock Uriah Hall out. Hall has got a bad chin as well. I don't think it's quite as bad as Belfort's, but seriously, it's not great. So that's the only reason that stopped me betting it at these odds. Then I did look at Uriah Hall inside the distance at -145. You know, I think there's more value in the distance than there is straight, but still, I don't think there's too much value at the same time. So it's a pass for me, but I do think Uriah Hall's going to knock Belfort out. I think it'll be in round 2. I think Uriah Hall will sort of feel his way into the fight, keep distance, throw kicks, break him down a little bit, see what it's about. And in the second round, when Belfort's tired a little bit, I think Uriah Hall will move forward a bit more and end up getting that knockout. Then the next fight, we've got Kamaru Usman against Emil Meek, and it's just I've said it on Twitter, and I'll say it again for the purpose of the podcast. It's just a ridiculous, pointless fight. Completely pointless. It doesn't benefit anybody. If Usman goes out there and wins, which he will do, I think it'll be a decision win. It doesn't put him in a bad light, but he can't really go and say, yeah, I smashed the last guy I fought, because it's Emil Meek's second fight in the UFC, and his first win was in his debut against Jordan Meehan, and I know he was a bit of an underdog in that fight against Meehan, if I remember rightly, but Meehan's not great, and we've just seen him go a decision with Eric Silva, so that says it all from my point of view anyway. And so yeah, Usman wins. He can't really boast too much about that. If he loses, it looks absolutely horrible for him. The upside from Meek, if he does beat Usman, looks great for him, but I don't think it's going to happen. I can't see it happening at all. And if Meek loses, everyone expects him to lose, and it's just pointless, because in my opinion, Meek is a good fighter. Potential prospect, maybe. We don't know yet. We don't know that yet. We've only seen him once in the UFC against a depleted Jordan Meehan. So, say if he is a prospect, this is potentially pulling a prospect back a bit, knocking him down the rankings. And Usman is not going to gain anything from this. He should be fighting in the top 5. He's claiming that people are ducking him. People won't fight him. And again, I said on Twitter in a conversation with somebody, I think that if this is the case with the UFC, the way they get around that is they offer, let's take Usman as the example, they offer Usman to the top 15. Hypothetically, no one takes the fight. Everyone says, nope, not interested. Give him a title shot. Because that'll soon stop people fighters ducking fights, because fighters will start to see lower ranked guys leapfrogging them to something they want, that they think they deserve themselves. So I know I'm just digressing a bit here. It's a betting podcast, but that's my opinion. Anyway, going back to the fight, Usman I think will win a decision. There's a few people talking about the distance prop. It's not a bad line. I don't think he knocks Meek out. He is tough. He has got that. He does have that toughness about him, and I don't think he'll get stopped with punches or knocked out. I think if he's going to get stopped, it'll more likely be a submission, a rear naked choke, something that he can't really control once it's locked in. You can't give up on a rear naked choke when someone's got their arm under your neck and they're squeezing. You don't have a choice. So, the distance prop, a few people have been talking about, but personally, I think Usman will just grind him out to a decision. Moving straight on into the next fight, we've got James Krause versus Alex White. Alex White's an underdog. I've seen a lot of people on him. Personally, from tape, James Krause, I think will win. He was a lean as well. I was prepared to bet him. I don't know what it is. I say this pretty much, I think, every podcast. There's one bet that I really like, that I really want to bet. For some reason, can never pull the trigger. there's always one bet every card. And it's the same with him. His line's good. His line's bettable. I think I can get him at -145. I capped the value at -175. I think he opened at -230. So everything points to, Newsome, you should be betting this, but I can't pull the trigger, and I don't know why. And the last time that I can remember it happening, the last few times I can remember it happening, that I couldn't pull the trigger, both bets would have lost. So I know that's not going to always be the case. There is going to be times where I can't pull the trigger and it wins, and I think, shit, I should have pulled it. But when you've got lean and you can't put the bet down, there's a reason for it, and sometimes it's it's non-explainable, and that's just what's happening here. The last time it happened, by the way, was the Jordan, Meehan and Eric Silva under 2.5 rounds. I said on the podcast that the second that I get my hands on that line, if it's under -200, I'll bet it. Came in at -175. I just couldn't do it. I was really annoyed why I couldn't, because I couldn't understand why I couldn't bet it. And then the fight went the distance. So, yeah, I think James Krause might finish him as well. I think that it's going to go one or two ways. This either Alex White's going to have good takedown defense, which against his fight with Tony Martin, he wasn't getting taken down easily, so he does have good takedown defense. I think he is the slightly better striker. So if Krause can't get him down, I could see Alex White taking over the fight, outpointing him. I don't think he'll knock him out, but ultimately Krause is grindy, not as grindy as like your Darren Elkins grindy, but he when he's not going his way on the feet, he does tend to try and get fights to the ground. He trains with the likes of Zach Cummins, I believe, as well. So, he's got good training partners. I think he'll get Alex White down, and I think at some point Alex White will give his back up and will get choked out. So that's my prediction: Krause by submission. The next fight, I've not watched any tape on it. I know briefly about both guys, enough to know this was a pass. So we've got Marco Polo Reyes against Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola obviously coming from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, and Marco Polo Reyes is starting to get a bit of a household name. People know who he is. Just got knocked out by James Vick. He beat Dong Kim in a really, really good, exciting fight that was back and forth. Now, from a pick point of view, I know Matt Frevola's got takedowns. He does like to, to get fights to the mat, and for that reason, I always have to back that guy. And I'll say Matt Frevola wins by a decision. The next fight, we've got Kalindra Faria against Jessica Eye. Same as, this is pretty much the same scenario as the fight that I've just spoken about above. Not watched any tape on it. I think Jessica Eye will win a decision. And the next fight, again, like the last two previous fights, so we've got Talita Bernardo against Irene Aldana. I'm actually a bit of a fan of Irene Aldana, and I've bet on her a couple of times, and I have lost money on her, but I do like the way she fights. Like she's a little different, in the women's MMA world, and I'm not sure how far she goes, but I think there's definitely room for improvement, and there's definitely room for her to start making her way up the ladder, and I think she'll get a win here. I actually think she'll finish Bernardo. I think she'll TKO her, maybe in the second, late in the third. But she has got that aggressiveness about her, and I think if she does start to get the upper hand, she can really put it on. Bernardo and get the win. The next fight, we've got Danielle Taylor against JJ Aldrich. Earlier on, I mentioned about in the Paige VanZant bet that I don't tend to bet fights that I think are going to go to a split decision, and I said that there was a fight later on in this card that was an example of that, and this is it. So I think Danielle Taylor's going to win. I also believe she's an underdog at the minute, so I think there is value on her to an extent, but don't bet it. This fight is going to be a split decision, in my opinion. Danielle Taylor's already been involved in some controversial split decisions anyway. Somehow she gets fights that razor close that even us at home watching, we're just waiting for the judges, just thinking, well, I'm glad I'm not in that seat. I'm glad I'm not scoring this fight officially. You know, not knowing which way it's going to go, and I think this is going to be another case of it. I think Aldrich will try and keep distance. Danielle Taylor is small for the division, a few people are saying. I've heard a few people saying that Aldrich will, JJ will just use a reach to her advantage and keep Danielle Taylor at bay, but it's not as easy as that. She's quite athletic. She has got a clinch game and some takedowns, and you know that's generally how she gets past this height disadvantage, because it's not that JJ Aldrich is just a lot bigger than her as a one-off. She's generally the smaller fighter in all the fights anyway, so I think Taylor's going to win. I think it'll be by a split decision. Whether it should be Aldrich's fight or not, I don't know. I just think it's a split decision. I wouldn't bet this fight. Moving on to the next one, we've got Mike Santiago versus Mads Burnell. So Burnell coming off a loss, short notice loss to Michel Prazeres, which is absolutely no shame in that. He does look like a decent grappler though. He didn't show a lot of it against Prazeres. I did bet Prazeres in that fight, so I watched tape on Burnell because of that. So Burnell is a grappler. Mike Santiago, again coming off a short notice loss to Zabit Magomed Sharipov, which, like I've just said for Mads Burnell, it's absolutely no shame in that. But Santiago looked okay-ish, as okay you can look against Zabit. Zabit did take him down, but he didn't. You know, he had to work for some of those takedowns. Mike Santiago looked like he was defending as well as he possibly could against a really good fighter. So whether Mads Burnell can get Mike Santiago down, I'm not too sure. But because of what I saw in that Zabit fight, I am going to be picking Mike Santiago to win. I think he'll win by decision. Don't think any guy will finish anyone here. And ultimately it just depends if Burnell can get him down or not. If he can't, then Santiago wins. If he can, then I think Burnell wins the decision. Ultimately, I'm saying that he might get him down, but not as often as he should be to win the fight by decision. And then finally, we've got Kang against Guido Cannetti. This again was going to be a potential bet for Kang. I think I capped it at about -200, I think, for this, and I would have bet him at that, but you know, he's north of -300 now. I think he opened at -300. He took a little bit of a dip down to like -265, I think it was, in America. But from my perspective in England, it was around -300 that the best I could have got him at. So way overpriced in my eyes. I do think he wins though. He's got a crazy good ground game, sort of Tim Elliott style, where he doesn't mind getting taken down and put into bad positions because he'll just reverse it and get himself into good positions. I think Cannetti will score takedowns, but does he get swept? I think he probably does. Ultimately, I think Kang is gonna finish him. I think it'll be a submission. I don't think he'll knock him out, because I think the majority of the fight will take place on the mat. So yeah, I'm going Kyung Ho Kang to beat Guido Cannetti by submission. And that does it. So just to recap, I've got 2 units on Jeremy Stephens at +188. I've got 2 units on that fight to go over 1.5 rounds at -133. I've got Paige VanZant I've got 1.5 units on Paige VanZant at +129, and I've got 1.5 units on Darren Elkins at +150. So that does it for this card. I hope you really enjoy the fights. It's a Sunday card, by the way. Just thought I would just drop that in for anyone that still doesn't know. It's a Sunday card. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to watch the most of it because I work Monday morning. So Sunday cards are really bad for me, especially being in the UK as well. You can go on to my BetMMA tips, betmma.tips record, and you can have a look at, you know, all the fights that I bet. I've got a couple of bets on there that I've posted for future cards as well, so keep an eye out for that. The URL address for that is betmma.tips/Newsome MMA. You can also go onto my website, where I've got all my bet picks, small breakdown, written breakdown of them. So if you miss anything in the podcast, or you just, you know, you forget something later on in the week and you want to have a quick read about why I've bet who I have, then it's all on there, and that's newsomemma.co.uk/bet-picks. There's a load of cool new stuff coming into the website in 2018. I've got quite a bit in the pipeline, so please keep an eye out for that. I'll be posting everything, all updates. Like I said, I post all my bet updates instantly as well onto Twitter, so really out of all this, make sure you follow me on Twitter, which my handle is @Newsome_MMA. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening. Keep an eye out for that. As always, for this channel, you know, I have rebranded it now to Newsome MMA, so I would appreciate any support, any likes, subscribes. Honestly, I appreciate everything from you guys. And yeah, enjoy the fights, and we will see you for the next card. Thank you.